Hey, I am Queen Newton. What's up, mommy? Can you hear me loud and clear? This is trigger warning, guys. Trigger warning. Okay, the following video may contain some disturbing content, and it may not be appropriate for some viewers. You have been warned. You can hear me loud and clear. Thank you very much, ladies. Hello, SK. What's up, mama? I'll let some more people jump up in here. What's up? What's up? What's up, everyone? Those in the background, hello, everybody. What is going on? So, these streets are funny. That choke no joke got these people, como se dice, on a roll. They on a roll over there. They recruiting and shit. You know how R. Kelly got people recruiting. R. Kelly got people recruiting people. Like, this is crazy. These streets are real. This is some real shit. Real G shit. They over there huddling up other people and shit. And people are just making fun of them. Yo, he's making fun of them. Choke No Joke is making fun of the R. Kelly supporters. I'm here to tell you. Okay? He sure is. He is here to mess with the supporters, get the cash apps, you know, make a money. He's a hustler from the Bronx. Like, what? Yes. So that's what he's doing. And you know what? It doesn't matter what the fuck they do. At the end of the day, none of it is going to work. The Chicago trial is going forward. He will be in jail forever and ever and ever. He's never getting out. Okay? Rashonda Landfair is going to testify he's done. That's it. That's all. Adios, amigo. Say goodnight to the bad guy. You know, all of yous put in your effort and hard work to keep him in there. You know. And a lot of yous have tried to get him out. And none of it works. None of it is going to work. I'm here to tell you. Just stay prayed up for him that, you know, he's safe where he's at. And that, you know, he can take care of himself while he's in there. That's it. That's all. Right, Sarah? Right, I am Queen Newton? Right? Right to all of y'all in the bushes? You know, que Smelly Kelly ain't going nowhere. He ain't going nowhere. He ain't going nowhere. He could stay right there. He ain't going nowhere. So, guys, listen. Well, I figured we check out some Cheryl Mack. We can read some Cheryl Mack expose. Hey, Mr. OCOV Reverend Fat Boy. What's up? How you doing? How you doing? You can hear me loud and clear. That's what's up. Everybody make sure y'all hit that like button on your way in here. Those who are in the bushes, please make sure you hit the like button as well. Thank you very much. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. What's up, my peoples who are in the building? Yes. Missy! How are you doing, baby? We in the hood tonight? Oh, yes. Good boy. The Reverend is doing good. That's what's up, Papi. You already know. Me too. I'm trying to stay out of trouble también. I'm trying not to get into trouble with nobody. Hey, Mom Life. What's up, Mommy? I'm just the information lady. That's it. That's all. That's all I want to be is the information lady. I don't want no trouble with nobody. Hey. But, you know, it comes. You know how that shit goes, y'all. You know. I'm a lover, not a fighter. Believe that shit. Believe that. Thank God, Missy. So, for those of y'all who have not heard or read Cheryl Mack's expose, I'm going to read it for y'all today. Okay? I'm going to try to see if I can schedule another live because I know that Tears is good on Fridays. So hopefully this Friday we'll continue with Azriel's testimony. Okay? And we'll have Ty and we'll have Tears. And it'll be me, Ty, and Tears reading to you guys. All right? You're spreading a positive message, baby. Good. That's what's up. Spread love. It's the Brooklyn way all day. All right. So before we get into Cheryl Mack, I just wanted to remind everybody, we're going to go back in time a little bit. And I found this video of this young lady who her name of her channel is Hollywood's Secrets. And she spoke about Reshonda's backstory. So I want us to take a listen because what she's speaking here is all facts. Everything she's speaking about is facts. All right, so I'm gonna go on mute and we're gonna take a listen. Okay, guys? All right.
R. Kelly in 1989 and started working with him soon after. She did background vocals on Aaliyah's debut album, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, and worked with other artists like Mary J. Blige, Wyclef Jean, Kelly Rowland, and Toni Braxton. She made her musical debut with a song featuring R. Kelly in 1998 titled Be Careful. She introduced R. Kelly to her family with hopes that he would help their musical careers, and her brother-in-law Greg Landfair would soon start playing bass guitar for him. R. Kelly started helping her nieces and nephews with their music. Brother Greg Landfair continued to work with R. Kelly all the way up to last year, and the family was divided and ostracized Sparkle and went years without speaking to her, all because she tried to save her niece.
Really one another, more than enough to hold on, long enough to share.
The group For the Cause consisted of four cousins: Shauna, Miss Lady Edwards, Benny B.J. Edwards, Jason J-Man Edwards, and the youngest, Rashonda Shorty Edwards. The group was mainly successful in Germany and overseas with covers of Stand By Me and Ain't No Sunshine, all of which are Sparkle's nieces and nephews.
I won't cry, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear. As long as you stand, ain't no sunshine with me. No sunshine, only darkness every day.
There were a couple times that I came into the studio while I was still under Rockland that my niece would be in the studio room, and I would walk in like, "What you doing here? Who's here with you?" And she's like, "Oh, I got dropped off. Robert's having a Christmas party or some type of party, and it's gonna be a lot of kids, so we're all gonna stay, at his house and have games." And so then I was just like, okay. I was pissed when I saw her in the studio by herself. You just with Robert being supervised. I thought I left my niece in good hands, but think of a grown man hanging out with young girls. It just felt like I just shouldn't have introduced them. Something ain't right.
Sparkle brought her youngest niece Rashonda to meet R. Kelly and rap for him in hopes that she would receive a solo career. She would bring her to the studio with Kelly to show her what recording music was like. However, Sparkle says that she noticed Rashonda hanging out at Kelly's place by herself a lot with no adult supervision. Rashonda was only 12 years old at the time. She was being dropped off by Sparkle's sister Valerie and her brother-in-law Greg. But Sparkle says she started hearing things and something in her gut told her that something wasn't right about her niece, and Kelly's entourage expressed concerns about Rashonda and Kelly to Sparkle. Sparkle tried to warn her sister Valerie, but she always dismissed the claims. Sparkle said, "I told my sister, look, Val, you've got to keep an eye on her because there are rumors," Sparkle said. "She would say to me, he would never do anything like that. He's her godfather." He says that he would put up a front for her parents and was lying to them so that they trusted him, all while secretly molesting the young girl.
Actually pretend as if he cared that she was young. It surprised me because I knew that he was having sex with her, but he would put up his front for her parents. He knows that he's sleeping with this young girl. Him and I both were actually having sex with her. But I didn't know at the time that she was actually 14.
Seema Jamison, Rashonda's longtime friend, testified that she and Rashonda visited Kelly dozens of times at his gym, his studio, and his house. Lindsay Perryman, R. Kelly's former personal assistant, told of her showing up at Kelly's house with an overnight bag. Her parents, Greg and Valerie Landfair, denied that it was her on the tape. Rashonda also denied her involvement in the tape, and she and her family refused to cooperate with authorities.
My name is Raven, and I was friends with the girl in the tape since 1997, junior high on. We bonded over basketball. She and I were the, star basketball players of our junior high team. We spent a lot of time together, both on and off the court. Her personality was vibrant, always happy, always having a great time, the life of the party. Just a really fun, wonderful person to be around.
Oak Park is a small town, so you get to know people quite well as a coach. I saw her play from junior high up until she got on my team as a sophomore in high school. Her parents were very responsible, like any family in Oak Park River Forest. Two parents who worked, sent their kids to the same school they went to, very supportive of their kids' activities by attending those events.
R. Kelly would come to some basketball games. I would see him in the stands. It almost seemed like a doting father when R. Kelly would see her.
It was just strange for me to see a grown man hanging out at a high school with high school girls. Went to the West Side, got a copy of this tape, and actually saw it at the police station. It was just very disheartening. It was very sad. This was the first victim that I personally knew. And so it was very hard to experience this and to see it, and felt that there was something had to be done about it.
Watching the tape and just thinking about, if that were me or if that were my daughter, it just obviously tears me apart. I wouldn't want that to happen to any young lady who's still young, still figuring out life, just looking up to this person who's supposed to be somebody that you trust, and that trust obviously being taken complete advantage of.
Her uncle Leroy Edwards, who managed her group For the Cause, denied that it was her on the tape. "I don't recognize her," said Leroy Edwards Jr. "They're not the same." Leroy admitted to being biased because of R. Kelly's celebrity. The prosecutor asked, "Still being in the music business, that's still important for you to be respectful of someone who's respected in the business, correct?" "Correct," Leroy answered. Leroy's daughter, Shauna, who was also in the For the Cause group, also denied that it was Reshonda and R. Kelly. She said, "It definitely wasn't her, not even close," and said of R. Kelly, "From what I know of him, that doesn't appear to be him." Sparkle believes that the Landfairs received money from R. Kelly. And because of Reshonda and her parents refusing to cooperate, and her family members denying Reshonda and R. Kelly's involvement in the tape, he was acquitted of all charges, and the group For the Cause performed in Germany in the midst of the trial. According to Valerie's Facebook page, which is now deleted, the siblings appear to have reconciled. Rashonda Landfair is now 34 years old, and the internet lists her as married, but that may not be accurate. According to an old Facebook page by her mother, Valerie, she may have lived in League City, which is a suburb in Houston, Texas, at some point, but she seems to actually be back in Chicago and frequently hangs out with an artist named Jay Storm. Her and Sparkle seem to be fine, and you can see them together in this video posted by her cousin. Rashonda doesn't appear to be pursuing a career in music anymore, and I'm not sure what she's doing with herself today. However, Kitty Jones, who's another victim of R. Kelly, started dating R. Kelly back in 2011 and says that she Googled images from the sex tape and realized that he had introduced her to the same girl from the video, which happens to be Reshonda, who was now an adult. This confirmed that Reshonda still had contact with him and probably still is in contact with R. Kelly since the trial.
But my curiosity just kind of got the best of me, and I Googled it. And when I saw the images were the same girl that he introduced me to. A couple weeks before, I knew immediately it was the same woman. Am I really with someone that did this?
Her brother plays drums for SZA and Chance the Rapper, who also made a song with R. Kelly back in 2015. Her brother can also be seen pictured here with R. Kelly, who molested his own sister and urinated on her on camera. Rashonda's family dropped the ball big time by ignoring her and R. Kelly's involvement in the child pornography case. R. Kelly could have been convicted years ago, and that would have saved the lives of many young girls that he abused and imprisoned. No one cared about the welfare of this young woman and never spoke up about her being abused. They were more upset about Sparkle ruining opportunities for them and just wanted to get close to fame and money. This is just another story about how Black families cover up molestation and protect abusers. Sparkle and Rashonda's family is the reason why R. Kelly is still abusing women today. While we aren't sure what she's like as an adult or if she is still a prisoner to R. Kelly, the psychological effects of child molestation will follow her for the rest of her life. And her family and R. Kelly will pay for their sins.
And I agree with that. I agree. R. Kelly will pay for his sins. The Chicago federal trial is coming up. October 20th, there is a telephone hearing. Hopefully, I will get to listen. I'm going to try my best to be there, guys, and see what happened. What's going to happen with that trial? What's the status of the hearing? And so you see how it spoke about, the young lady was speaking about how Rashonda's cousin also testified that it wasn't her on the tape. Now, in the Chicago federal trial, Shauna is now testifying that, yes, that was R. Kelly with her cousin, and R. Kelly was also with her on a tape together. It's in the indictment. You can go back into the pages that I have on these videos and check out the Chicago indictment. It will tell you that it says minor 1 and minor, I believe, 5. Those two are Rashonda and her cousin Shona. Rashonda and Rashana. And hello, D-Live. Hello, Mississippi Mama, MISSI, What's up, lady? What's up, ladies? So, yeah. Now, I found another little clip that I'm going to play for y'all. And it is talking about the 2008 trial. And this is from the Young Turks. And yeah, so we're going to listen to this as well. I'm going to play it for you now.
Young Turks, we got an update on the R. Kelly case that has only lasted 87 years so far. It's not a new case. It's that same case he has with the 14 or maybe 13-year-old girl that he allegedly had sex with and allegedly did the, you know.
This came out in 2007, guys.
What I'm talking about. So, and what's the update now?
They are going to allow the sex tapes to be shown in open court.
Damn, that's weird. Look at who is this guy, man? What's this guy's story? He's such a weirdo. All right. Why would they allow it in open court?
I don't know. That's really awkward because these are young girls. They're definitely minors. They're underage, and they're going to show sex tapes of them in open court.
I guess the judge is saying here, Judge Gaughan in this case is saying, well, you know, the girl, I guess a 13-year-old is disputing that it's her in the tape, so people have to see whether it's her or not. But there's got to be a closed way you can do that, either for the judge or the jury or both, and not have it go to the media, man. I mean, that's literally child pornography. I mean, that's what they're trying them on.
Right.
So it seems counterintuitive to let that go in the public.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's going to be all over YouTube. That's terrible. Nah, they got to appeal this. They got to just. But you know what? Jesus made a brilliant analysis of why there's been so many appeals and why it's going on for 88 years. Way to go, Jesus. Oh, yeah, rock and roll. Because they want the girls to grow up. The defense does. So that by the time they take the stand, they don't look like a young 13 or 14-year-old girl. They look like they're 18 or 19 or 20. So they can be like, or even older at this point. So they'd be like, see, they look totally old enough. But, dude, you did it like 8 years ago, right? It's a bit of a genius strategy because it affects people's psychology a little bit when they see him on the stand. And they're like, what? They're fine. So let's see how it plays out. But if he's guilty of this stuff, I mean, it's not playing, man. It's real. 13, 14-year-olds are way too young. Right. So let's see how it develops. We'll have a verdict in the year 2021. So hang in there for that. Yeah.
Did you guys hear what he just said? And that was in 2007. He just said, we're going to have a verdict in 2021. Let me rewind that for y'all. Remember, this is from the Young Turks. This was published August 23rd of 2007, guys. Okay? And listen to what he said.
And so hang in there for that. Young Turks. Young in the year. Let's see how 13, 14-year-olds are stuff. I mean, it's not playing, man. It's real. 13, 14-year-olds are way too young. Right. So let's see how it develops. We'll have a verdict in the year 2021. So hang in there for that. Young Turks.
You heard that? They predicted that shit, yo. Stop playing. We will have a verdict in 2021. Okay? He saw the future. That video was done in 2007, guys, by the Young Turks. Okay? He said the trial took so long, it took 6 years. That was a defense strategy so that by the time the girls got to a specific age, 6 years later, she'd be in her 20s. She wouldn't look like the same 13-year-old on the tape. Right? The family was driven out into Germany, and they were still touring in Germany, making money, making music over there in Germany while the trial was going on. He sent that family away. Rashonda Landfair's friend said she had to go away. She had to leave. She left the country with her family. They left the country. She was out there singing, doing her thing, while R. Kelly was waiting trial. She came back to the States. She wound up going back with him. The family's known all this time, locked the parent up. Valerie Landfair should be locked up. The father passed away. He's doing his time now. You know what I mean? It's very specific. He didn't even say in the year 2000 or something. Exactly. He said 2021. Okay? Matter of fact, let me copy the video so y'all can see. That's the video right there in the chat. The other video's here. I'm going to post the other video as well. Now, I had another video, and I don't know where the hell it is that I wanted to show you guys. I don't know what the hell I did with it. I'm wondering if it's this one here. No, it was one with Jim DeRogatis. I don't know if this one was the other one. Let me see. Hold on 1 second, guys. I'm going to put it on mute. Now, like I was saying, guys, I had found something very interesting that Jim DeRogatis I don't remember him ever mentioning this, but it's a little tip for you guys. I don't know if you guys ever heard of this. Did any one of you guys hear of where Jim DeRogatis probably got the tape from? Does anybody know where he could have gotten that tape from? Does anybody remember hearing him mention that? Put it in the chat. If you guys heard about where Jim got the tape from when it was put in his mailbox, did anyone ever hear him ever mention where he could have gotten it from? Anybody? 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 Anybody in the bushes? Has anybody heard? There's like 32 of y'all in here. Okay. Well, I got a little tip here. I want you guys to listen and pay very close attention to what is being said, okay?
So a couple things. One, the mainstream even now doesn't hear R&B to react to it. Right now, if we want to talk about a part of R&B that people are reacting to, we of course have the right man here, right? Because for those of you who don't know who Jim is, he's the one who the tape got sent to, like as in the R. Kelly, as in the original R. Kelly tape. It showed up in his mailbox.
Have you heard I Admit?
Yes. No, actually, I haven't. I refuse to listen to it.
Jim DeRogatis or whatever your name is.
Oh, he called you out.
Me for 25 years now. Yeah, I got a whole fucking verse. I got a whole verse. I got no career except for him, he said.
He called you out.
Yeah, boy, was that an interesting morning. You wake up and there's 150 Twitter things at 6 a.m. Hey, D-Ro, R. Kelly's dissing you by name.
But that also speaks to the point that we're making. I think if R. Kelly was a rap artist, or if R. Kelly was a mainstream pop artist, folks would deal very differently with who R. Kelly is, right? Because it's R&B and the audience is seen as primarily Black women, it has not warranted the kind of attention, really until now, that it's deserved for 20 years.
Yeah, I think, I'm a huge neo-soul fan, whether you're talking Jill Scott or Erykah Badu or, D'Angelo. My God, right? But it doesn't frighten. If our theme is fear of a black planet, I don't think that neo soul has frightened white America the way that hip hop has, and R&B is either ignored,
except in the early days when it's rhythm and blues and very highly sexualized, right? And the thing about R. Kelly is like a multinational corporation. Like you find
the 73rd floor of Trump Tower across the street.
But it's
but he keeps the girls in his cult by Union Park.
It's like you find one brand that you hate and you rail against politically, not knowing that brand's owned by some other brand that you consume all the time.
Yeah.
Right. So you're like, I don't listen to R. Kelly music, but you just listen to 10 R. Kelly songs that he wrote for somebody else.
Yeah. Celine Dion.
That you don't know.
Yeah,
right.
I don't shop at Walmart.
Usher, Celine Dion, Joe. I mean, you've been listening to all this music, right, that he wrote, right? So
that's fear of a black.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
That's we got to take that on the road.
That's
you and me and Toronto first.
Well, because Jim had this quote about, had it been one white woman in Winnetta.
But I stole that from you.
Right, which he attributed to me. So in every story that they interviewed Jim about this, I get quoted as part of that quote.
Because I'm a fat white guy. What right do I have to say that? And you're a black man, and you don't have the right to say. I'm so glad that there is now
Yeah, I
this
got you.
hashtag
Yeah.
Mute R. Kelly movement, which is Black women.
Right.
Finally, you know, because I've been writing for them for years, you know, what they've told me. I don't know why I was this lucky. I'll tell you why, because I would listen. Nobody else.
You want to tell them your theory
About
on who sent you the tape?
Oh yeah, I think it came via Nation of Islam. Yeah, that's the one you mean?
That's the one I
Yeah,
mean.
because R. Kelly's manager was Barry Hankerson, who was old school black mafia.
Who was also Aaliyah's cousin,
Aaliyah's
uncle.
Was married to Gladys Knight, put Pippin on Broadway, managed Tony Braxton. I mean, this guy was juiced, right?
Y'all heard what he said? You guys heard what he said? Oh, good, Missy, good. That's why I'm posting them, sis. I'm throwing little gems here and there, y'all. Did you hear what he said about where he thinks the video came from? I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back a little bit. I'm gonna go back on mute.
Black mafia.
Who was also Aaliyah's cousin,
Aaliyah's
uncle.
Was married to Gladys Knight. Yeah, that's the one you mean?
That's the one I
mean.
mean. Who sent you the tape?
Oh yeah, I was this lucky. I'll tell you why, because I would listen. Nobody else.
You want to tell them your theory
about
on who sent you the tape?
Oh yeah, I think it came via Nation of Islam. Yeah, that's the one you mean?
That's the one I mean.
Yeah, because R. Kelly's manager was Barry Hankerson, who was old school black mafia.
Who was also Aaliyah's cousin,
Aaliyah's
uncle.
Was married to Gladys Knight, put Pippin on Broadway, managed Tony Braxton. I mean, this guy was juiced, right? He'd come to Chicago. He was the assistant mayor of Detroit under Coleman Young. He'd come to Chicago, have lunch with Farrakhan and dinner with Jesse Jackson, right? He had connections. And I believe he heard about this tape on the street and he said, steer it to this guy. But I think it was the guys in the bow tie. Because the only thing, Nation of Islam will fight anybody trying to tear down the successful black man. The only cause bigger to them is disrespecting the fruit of Islam, the black women. Yeah. And I think they wanted this guy to be coming down. That's been but I don't know.
Right. And if you go back and you watch, he did a couple of videos for his Batman theme.
Yeah.
And there's one of them in which you actually see the fruit of Islam in the video doing security for him. Yeah. Right. So it's not implausible.
But what's horrifying is R. Kelly employs off-duty cops to do security. If we were to go right now to 219 North Justine Street, a block away from Union Park, where he is housing a 19-year-old girl and a 21-year-old girl, both of whom have been separated from their parents for 3 years, there are 2 off-duty Chicago cops out front.
Doing security.
Right, doing his security. And the man who is about to hear the Van Dyke Laquan is Judge Vincent Gaughn, who is a son of a bitch, who is beyond corrupt. He heard the R. Kelly trial. It took 6.5 years for that to go to trial. From his indictment, it was the longest, set a record in Cook County, the longest period between indictment and trial. And during those 6.5 years, every 6 weeks, he'd hold a status conference and immediately retire to closed chambers. Everything that happened for 6.5 years remains off the record. The Sun-Times, the Tribune, and BEZ Public Radio sued to get those transcripts unsealed, and we lost. And he compelled me to take the stand because I got the videotape. I had to cite the Fifth Amendment like a fucking mobster so as not to reveal my sources. He did the same thing in the McDonald trial to the journalist who got the shooting, the videotape of McDonald, doing the same thing with the sealed hearings. He's 80 years old, and I mean, it's Chicago. Nobody, what he did in those sealed hearings was rule out any evidence of Aaliyah, of the 6 civil lawsuits of a pattern of predatory behavior. He reduced everything to one videotape. I love this city, heart and soul. Right? I grew up across the river from Manhattan, and I've lived here since 1990, and I've never lived anywhere else. But my God, it's shit like that that just make me sick. And BEZ and the Tribune have a podcast now about the McDonald trial that goes deep into all these issues. And whichever way it turns out, get yourself informed.
Yeah.
Really done good work on that.
Wow, right? Hey, Wings. Hello, Lasting Impressions. Hey, Danny. Yeah, isn't that crazy, guys? Remember, I was reading that opinion piece from the judge, and that I was reading the opinion piece from the journalist, how they were complaining that there was secret hearings that nobody knew about. The court reporters weren't allowed in these hearings. Nobody was allowed in these hearings. That was in his 2008 trial. They complained about it. Remember? I read that. I read that to you guys, and I told you there was 3 secret meetings that now we know. Jim just explained to us that those meetings were about the fact that they dismissed Aaliyah's case against R. Kelly. They also dismissed the other cases with the other girls, I gather, with Tiffany Hawkins and Patrice and all the other girls that came out while R. Kelly was on trial. Patrice Jones, Martina Woods, those girls came out in like 2002, 2003. You know what I mean? And this was going on, and he was also conspiring to hide the videotapes. You know, he hired Jack Palladino. Jack Palladino wound up buying up videos from the little hole in the walls that was selling the videos. Hey, Midnight Oasis, what's up? So they were doing all these things to conspire to cover up R. Kelly's crimes. This is why he has this Chicago federal trial going on now for obstruction of justice. And the judge should be investigated that was doing that trial back in 2008. Judge Gahn. He should be, definitely should be investigated. So, yeah. So I just wanted to drop those little dimes on you guys. Okay, so Jim DeRogatis thinks that it was the Nation of Islam who dropped bomb on R. Kelly, but they think that it came from Barry Hankerson, who probably left it in the hands of Farrakhan's people, and Farrakhan's people dropped it in Jim DeRogatis' mailbox. And from there, Jim showed it to the police, and the police wound up calling Stephanie. Stephanie went over to the station, to the police station. Jim was there. They popped in the tapes. They asked her if she knew who she was. She said that was her niece. She got upset. She called CPS, got CPS involved. CPS didn't fall through with the allegations. There was no abuse of any sort or anything like that. So the little girl slipped in the cracks of the community. Everybody failed that little girl. Everybody failed her. Everybody failed her. Aaliyah, everybody failed her. All them girls that happened in the beginning, Tiffany Hawkins, everybody failed her. People have been covering up R. Kelly's crimes for decades, and they're still doing it till this day, including his own supporters, his flying monkeys. It's sad. It's a sad thing to see. Right. Exactly, Sarah. Barry went to pray when he heard about Aaliyah. That's what he said. So he knew about RH before Aaliyah. Well, actually, Rashonda Landfair was after Aaliyah. But remember, he was still working after Aaliyah. After the whole incident with Aaliyah, he was still working for R. Kelly. He separated like in 96 or something like that. Like 2 years after the fact of Aaliyah's marriage. And then found out whatever happened with Rashonda Landfair and probably said, you know what? There's a tape with this mother on here. Yeah, I'm going to go talk to that guy and we're going to pray for him. You know. That's like when R. Kelly went to visit Farrakhan that Sharon Winbush put the video up, right? He went to go visit him. He wrote down some words for R. Kelly to follow. Like he wrote a letter to R. Kelly like, you're doomed. This is your destiny. Whatever you are going through is what you need to go through, my man. Take it with strive and go with peace. You'll be all right. You know? So let's okay. Let me close this. Yeah, I don't want to have too many tabs open and then my internet starts bugging out. Okay. But, you know, we also know that Linda Mensch is dead. She was killed in a hit and run. And I'm very suspicious about this hit and run, as well as Jack Palladino. They both died months apart, just as R. Kelly's trials are coming up. It's strange to me. It's very odd. Gregory Landfair, too, passed away out of nowhere. I don't know if he had a heart condition or, you know, any type of diseases. You know, maybe he was a heavy drinker and had a bad liver. You know, maybe he was a diabetic. He went into a coma. He was a heavy smoker. He had a heart attack. You know, we don't know these things, but it's really strange. I just find it really, really strange, y'all. You know, I wish Barry would have went on the stand or Miss Horton to stand up for Aaliyah somehow, some way, get involved, you know, but they didn't because they didn't have the courage. A lot of people who should have stood up didn't have the courage. You know, he strikes fear in people. This is what he does. He's a master manipulator. He's a thug. He's got goons who are willing to do whatever, as well as supporters to do whatever, right? All right, guys. So, what was my other topic? Okay. Now we're going to get into Cheryl Mack's book. All right. Her little 5-page story. All right. Here it is, guys. Make sure everybody sees it. Hold on. All right. I guess it's good like that. So, y'all ready? You guys can see it? Okay. I'm going to put my little watermark there. Sorry, guys, if you can't see certain words, but I need to put my watermark, y'all. Y'all already know. I know. I wish he was subpoenaed. I wish he was subpoenaed. Him, the mother, and anybody else that needed to be there. You know? It's very strange. All right. So this is Cheryl Mack's 5-page little expose that she decided to write back in 2018 or 17, something like that. Okay. And it says, during my term with Robert Kelly as friend and as employee, I witnessed sex, hostility, snatching, grabbing, groping, drugs, alcohol, and bipolar behavior, all from a man who could write a record better than he could spell his name. Go figure that. She witnessed all of that. Did she mention that on the stand? I'm trying to think. Did she? I got to refresh my memory on her testimony again. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm exactly, Midnight Oasis. It was an attempted robbery. Go figure. 2 black guys came and robbed them. Do you know what they took from him? What they were trying to take from him? Do you know? They were trying to take his camera. Okay? He didn't let go of his camera. Then they dragged him for like a block while he was holding on to his camera, while they were in the car holding on to one end of the camera, while he's holding on to the other end, dragging. He's being dragged. That's how he died. For his camera? Come on now. Mighty fucking strange. Mighty, mighty strange. And they did arrest the 2 of them. 2 young guys. 2 young cats in their 20s. 20s and 30s, I think. 20s and 30s. I have the article there. I read it and stuff. I just can't remember all of it. But yeah. Between that age range. These guys were from Philadelphia or something like that. No, they didn't pistol whip him. No, he got drugged. He got dragged in the street. That's how he died. All right, so let's continue here. Then she says, I began my journey with Robert professionally in August of 2005. Prior to that, there was just cordial conversation. My first visit to Robert's studio was in 2005 with my artist, Sherry, who now travels as background vocalist for Tamia. Robert invited Sherry and I to his chocolate factory studio located in the basement of his Olympia Fields, Illinois home, which was foreclosed in 2013. We arrived there with the intent to play music and get direction, but we ended up there for days in the studio with Rob at his request, watching him create. There were numerous of girls of all ages in and out of the studio at all times. Some waited for hours, and some came right in and were introduced and would ultimately disappear. There were many. All of them were very, very young. Sherry, in her early 30s at the time, didn't seem of interest to Robert, but he loved her voice and said he was very impressed with me as her manager and wanted to give her a shot at recording records for other projects. She recorded several records, and one of which he actually selected for his album, Double Up. The album did very well. We saw credits, but there was no dollars compensation, $0 compensation. We saw credits, but there was no money. Sherry was featured on the album, singing a duet alongside Robert, titled Having a Baby. Robert never possessed any further activity with Sherry after that, and said he wasn't going to make the song a single, so Sherry lost interest and moved on with other supporting act opportunities with Brandy, Kelly Price, and ultimately made her home with Tamia. Sherry and I parted ways, and I continued my working relationship with Robert. During the early visits with Robert, I was introduced to his staff of engineers, and I became a staple piece. He referred to me as his sister. I met Robert's kids on the first visit to his home. He seemed very close to the children, and this was during the alleged porn court case period. There was a very close relationship with Joanne, his oldest daughter, now 16. Joanne was around more than Jaya and Robert Jr. She was a dancer and always danced at Robert's request for his guests. Joanne was around more than Jaya and Robert Jr. She was a dancer and always danced at Robert's request for his guests. It was uncomfortable. There was one late night party, and Robert had her dancing on the pool table for his guests. There were older men present, mostly staff, but this was awkward. He cheered her on, and it seemed as if the guys were afraid to clap or even look at her. She was young, and it was inappropriate. Robert made sure that everyone knew my name. Jeff, the engineer, Abel, the in-house engineer, Ian, also the house engineer, Donnie Lyle, music producer, ran the studio. The studio was open around the clock, and Robert recorded after midnight and into the mornings every day. His days began around 4 p.m. with him making rounds with his guests and ultimately ending in the studio. I was always invited to every event: costume parties, dinners, house parties with themes, 5-star parties as they were called. I was there for video shoots and actually appeared in videos. This was never a paid opportunity with Robert. Our agreement was that if I found an artist opportunity, I would bring it to him first. During that time, I never felt fear of Robert. It was a simple understanding. I worked a corporate job by day and traveled to Chicago on weekends. I traveled at my own expense and did so for several years. I introduced Robert to an artist that I began working with out of Atlanta, Dawn. I was shopping her project and getting interest when I played her music for Robert. Robert requested pictures and video of Dawn. When I showed that to him after loving her voice, he invited her out at his expense. Dawn was early 20s at the time. When I flew her out, she brought a girlfriend with her, Angie. Robert met Dawn, loved her, and invited her repeatedly, then without me. Ultimately, after a few more visits for parties and no studio time ever, Dawn stopped visiting Robert. I wonder what happened there. Why did she stop visiting? He did some fuck shit, and she was like, I ain't with it. I'm out. This all went on for a while. In 2009, I began working with female artist Precious Way. Now, 2009, guys, he was allegedly messing around with Reshonda Pace and was out a year from being acquitted. Right? 2009. And he had just got his divorce from Andrea. In 2009, I began working with female artist Precious Way. Precious was 17, originally from Chicago and living in Atlanta at the time. I wonder if that girl Dawn, she was from Atlanta, she said. I wonder if that's the same Dawn that was on Love and Hip Hop. But anyway, Precious was 17, originally from Chicago and living in Atlanta at the time. Precious was very excited about me as her manager, and when I told her and her mother that I had a great relationship with Robert, they both wanted to meet him and showcase Precious music. That was an easy task. I called Robert and told him about Precious, and he invited her and her mom out to Olympia Fields. I covered the cost of air and hotel for all of us. When we arrived in Chicago, we were invited to the home where there was a get together. There was a basketball game on the court at his home, and the bar was open on the lawn. Precious and her mom, who are both Chicago fans of Robert's, that never even came close to meeting him, it was beyond their wildest dreams. Robert was very cordial and respectful that night. We were his special guests. He seemed smitten with Precious. She was young, and this hadn't happened at this point in my presence during my stint with Robert. We were invited into his studio, and there we sat, listened to music, and shuffled through pictures from Precious' portfolio. Precious asked, and with Robert's approval, went to the bathroom down the hall while her mother and I waited in the studio. During their absence, Robert faked a phone call, went to the bathroom, and escorted Precious into his theater room next door to the bathroom. Once he had Precious in the theater room, he locked the door and began his sex act with her. She was a virgin, scared out of her mind that if she didn't allow him to have sex with her, that he would refuse her project and disappoint me in the end. In that room, they exchanged phone numbers, and when she returned to the room, she seemed nervous and disengaged. He appeared a few minutes later. We resumed as if the sex trauma never happened. Her mother and I were totally in the dark of this happening. Precious and Robert became very close. They would talk for hours on the phone, and her mother and I were clueless. He told her not to tell me that they were talking offline. She was so afraid of Robert. This went on for months. Robert ultimately agreed to make this a chocolate factory project, and he allowed me to oversee the project. And this, let me interject you, Lord have mercy. I need to interject for a second here. I need to interrupt. Bitch, really? All this is going on. You don't have a clue. And you find out that they were talking for months offline. You knew that there was young girls around him. You already knew what it was like to be near him already for 4 years. I know you had to have seen Geronda Pace. And don't tell me you did not see Geronda. Tell me you didn't see Geronda. Girl, I know you saw Geronda. You had to. So in that room, they exchanged phone numbers. And when she returned to the room, she seemed nervous and disengaged. He appeared a few minutes later. We resumed as if the sex trauma never happened. Her mother and I were totally in the dark of this happening. Precious and Robert became very close. They would talk for hours on the phone, and her mother and I were clueless. He told her not to tell me that they were talking offline. She was so afraid of Robert. This went on for months. Robert ultimately agreed to make this a chocolate factory project, and he allowed me to oversee the project. Precious took a firm liking to Robert. Robert would ultimately put Precious up in a hotel a little less than a mile from his home at the Country Inn Suites in Matson, Illinois. He would extend the room daily to keep her there. Oh, Lord, he started keeping her as a hostage también. Robert requested a writer to Precious. Wait. Robert requested a writer for Precious to get her music going. He allowed me as her manager to oversee the project. I hired engineers and songwriters for the project. There were times when there were times when he would yell at Precious about what she would wear to the studio, and she would cry out of fear. She said that he would beat her at the end of the sessions. He would buy her costumes and make her dress up and videotape her. She was forced to wear high heels and tutus with hair bows and lollipops to complete the costume. I scouted a writer from Atlanta in January of 2010. Her name is Vonencia Andrews. Vonencia was an aspiring writer. Now, Vonencia Andrews, as we know, is V, right? Okay? Right? So that's V. So now she's going to talk about V. So 2010 is when Vonencia V came into R. Kelly's life. Now, Vonencia was an aspiring writer. She was in love with Robert the first day that she met him. He wanted to meet with her without me. He said he wanted to do so because he needed to make sure she was in it for Precious. Did you guys understand that, or am I bugging out on what I just read there? R. Kelly had the two girls. He met Vonencia, and she was a writer, and she was in love with Robert the first day she met him. She says he wanted to meet with her without me. He wanted to meet with Vonencia without Cheryl Mack. And he said he wanted to do so because he needed to make sure she was in it for Precious. What? So I bet you any amount of money that Vonencia V had sex with Precious. How much I want to make a bet? How much I want to make a bet that shit popped off? He talking about, you don't need to be here, Cheryl. You can leave the girls with me. It's okay. Leave them with me. Don't worry. I got to make sure that they right for each other. Fucking pervert. He had problems. This was also part of his scheme. He met with her alone, and after the first night, he called me and said, "You the shit." He actually called Cheryl Mack and said that she was the shit and that Vonencia at the time was 19. So here he is with a 19 and a 17-year-old. And he's doing whatever he wants with them. And Cheryl Mack's like, okay, whatever you say, master. Wow. Robert began playing Precious and Vonencia against each other. No, of course. Until it got to be too much for Precious. And I think that's the same exact thing he did to Joy and Azriel. He got in the middle of them. He got them to be against each other. He did that shit on purpose. Then Robert had me overseeing the project and proposed a co-management arrangement for both girls. He had me doing all of the work, and he would come in and at the end of the session, of every session, to check the progress of the Vonencia's writing and Precious's vocals. I hired an engineer by the name of Dwayne. He was also a producer, and he was present for every session with the girls. Precious was very afraid of Robert. She would almost tear up when she knew that he was on his way to the session. I began to fear what she feared. This went on for quite some time, and Robert ultimately stopped her sessions. By now, she was in a Hampton Inn hotel in Matson, Illinois. I was flying in and out of Chicago. The sporadic sessions didn't suit me from a coast perspective. There was no money coming in. He wouldn't allow her to work out, leave her room, or even speak or see her mother. It got really out of control. Precious' mother was fed up. Robert had by then forced Precious to have an abortion, beat her like a child, forced her to wear makeup to cover her bruises, remain silent about it, stay in her hotel room, not speak to her family. She was scared. They hired attorney Susan Loggins, sued Robert a few weeks prior to his Africa date as opener of the World Cup. He called me in put fear in me, told me that I needed to pick a team. He said that people would get killed for being involved in this kind of thing. I feared for my life. Robert had people around him that he threatened to handle me if this got out of hand. He forced me to visit his attorney, Ed Jensen, where he prepared Jensen. Ed was already prepared for my arrival. He had a series of questions. For every question, Ed prepared me for shakedown and other legal scare tactics that I didn't know. I was more afraid for my reputation in the industry and how things were playing out. Precious won her lawsuit against Robert, and the case is sealed. The case was based on sex with an underage minor. There's video footage on file of Robert's multiple entrances into Precious's hotel room. Did you hear that? There's video footage on file of Robert's multiple entrances into Precious's hotel room. Collections of Robert's fingerprints and semen from her undergarments and bed sheets, all collected and used in support of the case. Robert continued his life with Vonencia, and she lives as one of Robert's main girls. I recently moved all of Vonencia's belongings from a condo at Buckhead Grand here in Atlanta that was in my name to the new guest house in Duluth, Georgia. In 2013-2014, Robert asked me to locate Precious, and I did. He offered her a visit to Atlanta. She accepted. I arranged the visit, and they picked up where they left off. Precious revealed at that time that she was still in love with Robert, and her life was so damaged so that she didn't even know how to function with other men after being in that scary relationship with him. And that's the same exact way Aaliyah felt, Dominique felt, Azriel is starting to feel, and every other last girl that has been in a relationship feel. I made the contact with Precious for Robert because I was afraid not to. He would have forced her to take her clothes off after he completely undressed in front of me and forced her to have sex with him, with me sitting there while she cried doing so. He appeared happy and smoked a cigar afterwards. Told her that if she wanted to be an artist, that she had to learn how to be free and not so timid. She was humiliated and ultimately realized that he hadn't changed. She told me later that he continued to hit her and yell and force her to do things sexually that she would never do, like finger him in anally and speak of her finger as a penis and ask him if he liked it. She said that was his most satisfying moments with her sexuality. So he used to have this girl bang him in the booty like it was all good. Wow. Now, in November of 2013, after Robert decided to make Atlanta a second home, I began to work with both he and Devin on their joint venture of businesses. The goal was several companies that included a record label. Robert and Devin agreed on company splits, and things were in motion. I have no clue initially that Robert's plan was skewed. He told me on a sprinter ride that Devin had what he wanted, charisma, and that was something that he didn't possess naturally. He then began his Atlanta mission. He needed an attorney to draft the documents for the business, and he specifically wanted a Chicago lawyer. I scouted a few, and after a recommendation from his A&R rep at Sony, RCA Wayne Williams, Linda Mensch was the candidate hired for the job. I reached out to Linda personally, set up an appointment in LA, and after meeting with her, I scheduled a meeting with Robert. We all sat down. He looked what he heard. Man, I'm sorry. I lost my spot, guys. Okay. Okay, Linda Mensch was the candidate hired for the job. I reached out to Linda personally. She set up an appointment in LA, and after meeting with her, I scheduled a meeting with Robert. We all sat down. He liked what he heard, and we ultimately hired Linda on the spot. Robert introduced me to Linda as his longtime assistant and advised her to do everything through me. I spent months ramping Linda on the various processes and procedures of the Kelly businesses. I spent countless hours during the day working alongside Linda, phasing her in while phasing out Gerald Blackie Jones and Daryl McDavid, former business managers. There goes his cousin, right? His cousin Blackie, right? So his name is Gerald Jones and Daryl McDavid, former business manager. Linda never wanted to get involved with Robert's personal business, but there was no way around it. She knew of his past and always suggested to me that he should find a comparable mate. Linda and I needed help as the business was starting to grow. I'm going to need the company hired Linda, hired a bookkeeper, a friend of Linda's, hired a stylist, a friend of mine. Robert ultimately played all of us against each other, Devin included, in order to justify not paying any of us except Linda. Linda ultimately paid herself. She paid herself, carved my and Jones' salary as a business management team salary, thus the $10,000. The salary was not in place until July 2014. Up until that time, I was basically working for free. That sucks. Working for free. Wow. What was I? Lost my spot again. Hiring and building the company RSK. Robert received $2 million from a tour booked by Devin and never offered Devin or myself a dime. I have the bank statement of upcoming cash and outgoing expenses. When things started to become more structured, Robert began to change his attitude towards Devin and I. He began playing on another side. He began playing us against each other. He would call me and yell at me over the phone and in person for having conversations with Devin, or even being cordial with him. He wanted me to believe that Devin was trying to be the artist and that he wasn't really in it for him. Things got out of control. I went through the process of hiring a stylist. The first stylist that I brought in for an interview, he wanted her phone number and wanted to hire the second candidate for the job. During this time, he was proposing nights with my 22-year-old my 22-year-old niece and my best friend in her 30s. He was very aggressive with my niece, asked me to have her send pictures to his phone and claim, come by the studio, etc. She refused to do so. What? That's crazy. Give me 1 second, y'all. I need something to drink. All right. Sorry about that, guys. All right. Where was I? Okay. So, all right. So she says, carved my and Joan's salary as a business management team salary, thus the 10,000. The salary was not in place until July of 2014. Up until that time, I was basically working for free, hiring and building the company RSK. Robert received $2 million from a tour booked by Devin and never offered Devin or myself a dime. I have the bank statement of incoming cash and outgoing expenses. When things started to become more structured, Robert began to change his attitude towards Devin and I. He began playing us against each other. He would call me and yell at me over the phone and in person for having conversation with Devin, or even being cordial with him. He wanted me to believe that Devin was trying to be the artist and that he wasn't really in it for him. Things got out of control. I went through the process of hiring a stylist. The first stylist that I brought in for an interview, he wanted her phone number and wanted to hire the second candidate for work. During this time, he was proposing nights with my 22-year-old niece and my best friend in her 30s. He was very aggressive with my niece, asked me to have her send pictures to his phone and call him, come by the studio, etc. She refused to do so. My best friend had zero interest, and though that it was very respectful, and thought that it was very disrespectful. Robert began asking me to invite girls to the gym where he played basketball. My friends never wanted to come. They actually thought he was disgusting and were intimidated with this aggressive behavior off the court. The stylist ultimately hired for the job, Cash Howard, was harassed by Robert. She said on numerous occasions that he asked her for pictures and to not be afraid to be a little girl for daddy. Every girl called him daddy. It was embarrassing. I hired her and it became a styling game of weed smoking and heavy use of alcohol. And then ultimately he began to play us against each other. I never saw Cash and Robert intimate. I saw text messages, and she often spoke of their sexual phone conversations. She told me that he forced her to watch him have sex with his regular girls, Juice and Vonencia. This went on a few times in the lounge at Devon's house. Robert's employees, Uncle Junebug, was very rude to me after he saw Robert yell and curse at me and curse me out. Robert would say, "You're very smart, Bert. You do stupid stuff." For example, if the guest would fly in at noon and arrive at their hotel and couldn't check in until 3 p.m., he would yell and curse at me and call me stupid and blame me for the hotel rules. This would happen if flights were delayed, if drivers weren't present at carousel, if the Uber was a male and not a female. He would yell at me and curse me out in front of Junebug, and Junebug ultimately began to yell and curse me out as Robert did. They would have me running through crowds at shows to make sure that guests were always in view at concerts and not near each other. He left the stage at a show once and cursed me out because one of the guests moved from one side of the stage to the other, and he saw them close to each other. He said it was my fault. He did this in front of the staff. Junebug had me scared to do my job. He would make me feel as though I didn't work for Mr. Kelly, as he would call him, more so that I worked for him. Robert would make Junebug the boss of everyone and still say, "Only do what I tell you to do." It was a very confusing and hostile environment. More girls became a priority. Azriel Clary, an aspiring artist from Orlando, Joycelyn Savage, an aspiring artist from Atlanta, Judea Johnson, an aspiring model from Atlanta, Christy KLV, an aspiring artist from Texas, and others were all Robert's new teenage girls that I was constantly moving around, booking air, ground, and hotel, all with the debit card in my name from his personal R.S. Kelly Sun Trust bank account. These girls were so young and not travel savvy. It was very difficult moving them around. Robert never cared about the process or the cost. He wanted to make sure that they got to him as he would request. It was during a show date in Connecticut that everything took a turn for the worst. Robert would ask me to bring in Joy Savage, Azriel Clary, Christy Lee, and have them all stay on the casino property and take turns coming to the shows. At the final show, Robert asked me to get Azriel to him from the front of the stage to his dressing room. I escorted her back and left the room. He yelled for me an hour later as if something was wrong. I walked into the room and sat next to both of them. He was laying on a huge ottoman and she was sitting next to him. We were discussing the show, and moments later, she leaned over and started giving him oral sex in front of me. It was disgusting. She's only 17. It was in that moment that I made a conscious decision to end this role. It didn't feel right hearing him moan from the enjoyment of a child giving him oral sex. He would always have her in the room, straddling him in front of everyone. He thought it was sexy to do that. I was harassed later by Junebug, Linda, Joan, and the new tour manager, KG. They found issues with everything that I did after I had them ramped and comfortable in their seats. I was the biggest threat to everyone because I, 100%, had Robert's entire life in my hands. Even Robert thought that was too much control. They started playing alongside Robert with being rude. He did so much of the playing everyone against each other that he forgot that I had 4 condos in my name for him and his guests for the first year. I put 2 houses and every single utility in my name for him. These things went unnoticed, but still remained open items during the time that he wasn't paying me because he felt like it. I was being paid too much. Because he felt like A, I was being paid too much, and B, because Linda and the bookkeeper Joan convinced him that I was improperly handling show dates and not negotiating bonuses, so money was being left on the table. Bullshit. Linda, Joan, and KG somehow figured out how to convince Robert that Devin and I no longer made sense. So they defamed our names, and Robert cut my salary, made me pay for Linda's mistakes, and ultimately played me against one of his friends who booked club dates for him. This guy, Reese McKinney, would pay me out of his commission from events for helping him on his side of the business. Robert saw that as double dipping. The 200 or 300 here and just somehow just sat well with him. He was then convinced that I was showing favoritism to some of the agents after I delivered on his request to close the dates for his friends that bought in an excess of 1.3 million in shoe dates. Robert has a strong pattern of creating fear to not pay his debt to anyone. I would always get his approval on extremely costly flights, and upscale hotels, but push back when I would ask for my own pay. All while I was renting condos, homes, and covering utilities all in my name. I was disparaged by Linda, Joan, and KG. Robert ultimately lowered my responsibilities to focusing only on his guests and the homes, and it was grueling. And that was the end. The end. And you see that? Can you see that? Okay. Hello, ladies. Hey, Nicole. What's up, chula? Yes, exactly. He replaced some of the girls and kept some new girls. It's crazy. He was shifting girls. He was definitely. Your 7 a.m. alarm is about to go on. Ay, Dios mío. Good morning, baby. She said, you line up these two streets. Listen, girl. Yeah, this was an enterprise. This was an enterprise. This was proving an enterprise. This was proving sex trafficking. Moving the girls from place to place. It's crazy. Ooh, it's getting a little chilly. I'm going to put on my robe. Let me get my robe. Hold on. Oh, yeah. Oh, much better. It's getting chilly outside. It's getting chilly in here. Wow. Ah. You know, that's how that is. You see what she said? Now, when she was doing her testimony, I don't know. This, thank you, Sarah. She really, I don't know. Her testimony sounded like, she didn't, I don't know. It's like she didn't want to really talk, but she talked. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think? Have you guys heard Cheryl Mack's testimony through Atmos? Have you guys been paying attention? I'm trying to remember, like, thank you. Yeah. That's weird. It's just weird. Like I said, still, people are still covering up for him. Somehow, some way. They're still not, it's like they're saying still part of the stories. There's still certain things that they will take with them to their grave. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's crazy, right? But, let's close that. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, that I was into that. Another day. Okay, this was the one. All right. Well, guys, Don Russell, he's coming up soon too. His stuff is coming up soon. They just dropped a new discovery on his ass. Uh-huh. Yep. More discovery for him. He's got 3 pages of discovery. Yep. They sure do. They sure do. They do. Mm-hmm. Let me see which one it is. I think it's this one right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And this is the Eastern District of New York, as we can see. And this is for the United States versus Donald Russell. And this is his docket number. Dear Mr. Morris, enclosed, please find additional discovery in the above case. Well, this Katona think he's trying to open, right? No. I don't know how to turn this shit off. It's annoying. Okay, I hope I did this. All right. So enclosed, you will find additional discovery in the above captioned case in accordance with Rule 16 of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure. The government also continues to request reciprocal discovery from the defendant. Enclosed, please find copies of the following items. They have the Illinois Secretary of State DMV records for Donald Russell, business records certification, Illinois Secretary of State DMV records for June Barrett, business records and certification, birth certificate for Don Russell, the T-Mobile records for telephone number 312-513-1020, business record certification, email addresses to or sent from kalondon@yahoo.com, search warrant return for Facebook pages, Surviving Lies, business record certification, subscriber records from Apple Inc., business records certification, subscriber records from Apple Inc., business record certification. Hold on. What was I? Okay, business record certification, subscriber records from Apple Inc., business record certification, text messages between this number 312-203-3030 and Jane Doe number 1 and Jane Doe number 2. Forensics report of text messages between two individuals identified in file name. Forensic report of subset of relevant texts and messages and multimedia messages sent in DX36A in chat format. Also, civil lawsuit pertaining to an individual. Also, transcript for previously produced video clip, DX1 clip 1, transcript for a portion of a previously produced video clip, DX1 and clip 3. Also, emails addressed to or sent from ib.drussell@gmail.com to text messages between Donnell Russell and an individual, AT&T records for telephone number 312-220-33030. Okay. Now, these emails were previously produced to you on August 27, 2020, as part of the larger production of the search warrant return on this email account DX8. These emails were previously produced to you on August 27, 2020, as part of the larger production of the search warrant return on this email account. DX7. Then they have business records certification. Okay. And this was by Jacqueline, I always chop up her name. Casalus. Sorry, ma'am, for chopping up your name, Jacqueline. Wait, hold on. Sorry, guys. Shit. All right. And then, from the 27th, wait, when was it again? From October 22nd of 2020, they even had some discovery from there where they had video records, recorded statements made by the defendant on YouTube on January 25th. Also, statements that he made on YouTube on January 26th. They got his criminal history. Something about an affidavit, non-disclosure order, and search warrant for email accounts ib.russell@gmail.com. Affidavit, no disclosure order of search warrant for email account. They got that shit twice there. Then a letter for return for email account. Okay. Search warrant for his email account, business records, most accounts, business records, redacted New York Police Laboratory report dated. Oh, somebody's filled out a police report 2019 on April. A redacted NYPD Police Laboratory report dated April 4. Okay. I can't go into all this reading right now. I'm ready to go to sleep, guys. I am. I swear to God, I am. What's up? What's up? What's up? Yeah, I'm about to pause here as well. I gotta go to sleep. But we're gonna pause here, and I'll continue tomorrow or another day. But yeah, so Don Russell is. They got more discovery on his ass, and there will be another hearing. There's a telephone hearing, October 20th, for R. Kelly and his Chicago trial. And it's supposed to be 8 a.m. Yeah. So yeah, I gotta start getting up early. All right. All right, guys. Yeah, I'm gonna end this live. Good night, everyone. Yeah, the Chicago indictment, girl. Listen, I did a whole video on it. Matter of fact, let me Let me hold up. Hold on. Let's see. We gonna find it. Oh, what the hell was it? There it is, right here. I don't know how do I do that shit. Wait. All right. Look. I just put my video in there, guys. That's right there is the link to the video that I read the Chicago indictment. Yes, thank you. I am, girl. Yes, I am. Good night, my lovely ladies. Good night, everyone. You're very welcome as always, y'all. You know, I'm an old lady, but I'm still here, y'all. I'm still here, 10 toes deep. You know. Shush. Yes, babe. You see it? I just put the link right there into the chat too, guys. So if y'all want to check that out and then go back to the beginning of this video where it talks about Rashonda Landfair and go back to the indictment and you'll be able to see the pieces. All right, my loves, please don't forget to hit that like. Thank you, guys. Don't forget to hit that like button. And if you want to donate to your girl, you know your donations are appreciated. My bills are coming up and I need a little help with my computer bill. You know, my Pacer bill, that's another one that's there too. Shit. I got to pay my Pacer bill. It's $100 and something. Oh, man. Yeah. Fuck, I forgot about that too. I got to pay my Pacer bill now too. So, yeah, that's coming up as well. So, donations are appreciated. They help out the channel, keep the channel running. My Cash App is Diva Divine Light, capital D, capital D, capital L. Everything in the middle is lowercase. You can PayPal me, Diva Divine Light, as well. It's spelled the same way. If you don't have any of those things and you want to Zelle me, you can Zelle me as well. Make sure that you put in the little title, hey, babe, this is for you. You know, say something. Let me know that, you know, it's for me. My bills. I love you. Say something. I like getting little notes. I love you guys. Peace.